By about 700, many scientific people from Central and Western Europe appeared on the British island with the Brighton group, starting in what is now England. Another central group survived from across the Inland Channel, find their way to England to escape the growing Roman Empire in the continent. Of course, the Roman Empire could not endure the intention to rush out into the Atlantic. The Roman built round town, set up material base, while the Briton gradually become familiar with the Roman title,
laws, and language. But this peace didn't last long. The more Rome extended, the more problem it faced. Not to mention the appearance of terrifying German warrior from the North Sea, the Anglo-Saxon, and the Rus. The Romans withdrew from the British island in 410, and their influence faded incredibly quickly.
The Anglo-Saxon period. The period used to be known as the darkest, mainly because Britain saw for early years of Saxon invasion outskirts. It was a time of war, of the breaking up the Roman Britannia into several separate kingdoms, the religion conversations, and after 790s, the continual battle against a new set of invaders, the Vikings. The various Anglo-Saxon groups settled in the different areas of the countries. This kingdom sometimes acknowledged one of their rule as the High King, the Blackwater. By 650 AD, there were 7 separate kingdoms as follows: Kent, Mercia, Northumbria, East Anglia, Sussex, Wessex. Norman. In 911, when Vikings began to settle to be the shore of North France, as part of West Scandinavian exodus across northwest of Europe, the French local causes abandoned Normans. Eventually, Charles, the King of France, negotiated the peace with the Viking little ruler. In 911, granting him a stretch of land along France's northern coast that comes to be known as Normandy. The Norman dynasty had major political, cultural, and military impacts on medieval Europe and the Near East. The Normans were famed for their martial spirit. They maintained the warrior tradition and conquering the spirits of their Viking forebears. The Normans had further expanded into Wales, Scotland, Ireland. Although the Normans eventually disappeared, but their contribution remained in today.
Talk about Tudor dynasty. When Henry VII died, his son Henry VIII continued the policy of centralizing power. Henry VIII was most famous for breaking away from the Church of Rome and marrying 6 times. To divorce his first wife, Henry needed the approval of the Pope. When the Pope refused, he established the Church of England. At the same time, the Reformation was happening across Europe. During the reign of Henry VIII, Wales became formally united with England by the Act for the Government of Wales. Elizabeth I was the younger daughter of Henry VIII. She established the Church of England as the official Church of England. Elizabeth became one of the most popular monarchs in English history, particularly after 1588, when the England defeated the Spanish Armada, which had been sent by Spain to conquer England and restore Catholicism. About the Stuarts, the Queen of Scotland Mary Stuart was Catholic. She gave her throne to her Protestant son, James VI of Scotland. Elizabeth never married and so had no children of her own. So Elizabeth, the last ruler of the Tudors, the heir was her cousin James VI of Scotland. He became King James I of England and the steward of King James II Scotland. However, England and Scotland were now ruled by a king, but they were still separate countries. Both James I and his son Charles did agree with Parliament. In 1625, Charles I acceded to the throne. In 1642, the civil war happened between the king and Parliament. The king's army were defeated. Charles I was held prisoner and he was executed. Charles II to be king. During this reign, there was a major outbreak of plague in London and thousands of people died. Next year, a great fire destroyed much of the city.
After the First and Second World War, economies and relationships of European countries, in order to heal and reconnect these countries, a European Union was formed in 1945. By 1957, the United Kingdom had also directed the invitation to join the European Economic Community of the other 6 founding nations. Realizing that France and Germany had a rapid economic recovery after the war, the British leaders changed their mind about joining the EEC. Its application to join in 1963 and 1967 were vetoed by the President of France, Charles de Gaulle. It successfully joined in 1972. British people believe the UK's annual contribution to the EU is a burden for the country and strict EU laws cost the country billions of pounds annually. Most of UK citizens want a Brexit, meaning pulling out of the single market to regain control over Britain's borders and reduce immigration. On the 23 June 2016, the UK voted whether they wanted to remain or leave the EU. 51.9% voted to leave the EU, and UK set to leave EU by March 2019 with many reasons for declaration of Brexit.